What's going on? It is Friday, September 8th, and we've got a trade recap. We made 35 bucks today. Two losses and one win. The losses were, well, one was break even. So we had a break even, a loss, and a win. That's kind of how I'm going to phrase it, even though that technically it's showing up as two losses and one win. The one loss was 10 bucks. I essentially put my stop loss to break even, and with options, give or take a couple cents on the option, that could throw off the P&L a little bit. But that said, this was kind of, I'm going to just walk away is what I mean. Really, this week has been filled with choppiness, hasn't been consistent, and not a ton of momentum. So when we did get a little bit here to finish off the week with Tesla, I'm going to just walk away, and we'll come back next week. This could have been a bad day. It certainly wasn't my best, and I'll talk about that. So 10:30 a.m. I really didn't think it going into like 10 a.m., which market opens for me Central Time at like 8:30. I didn't think I was going to trade for the first hour and a half. I was watching other stuff, walking the dog, because of course today the dog is like going crazy for whatever reason. She can't settle down. Every 2 seconds she brings in a flip-flop, a shoe, something she's not supposed to have, a towel. It's just nonstop today. She's finally sleeping just outside the room. But that said, Microsoft at 10:30 was the first trade of the day. Let's unpack though the S&P. So jumping over to SPY, first things first, what do you see, Chop? I mean, you really can't, there's not much here, right, in terms of direction. 445, 50-ish the lows, and then 447 like the top of the highs. So really a minimal range, which is not the best for my strategy and momentum. However, there were some individual stocks that have relative strength and relative weakness. First of that was Microsoft, which had relative strength. The first trade of the day was this. Once Microsoft popped up off the VWAP bounce, consolidated right here underneath high of day, which was right here, I got long. And I actually got long in a good time because we got a decent sized move and the volume did come in, right? It kind of went and it broke a new high of the day, but it just didn't get that follow through momentum. And I was looking for a little bit more to take profits. I was actually very close to my take profit, which is around 10-12%. These contracts, because it's Friday and I play next Friday's contracts, the Friday contracts are going to be a little more volatile. And so I'll probably play smaller size, which is what I did, in order to kind of fit in that same thing of like 10% risk being $100. Well, either way, risking 100 to make 100 plus is like the standard for all the trades I take. This would have been a lot less of a risk because it was my stop loss would have been like right here. But either way, it just didn't follow through. So that was it. Ends up going my way, comes back, and then stopped out, break even. Now you could say to yourself, well, why didn't you take anything off? I was very close to taking my first. I had two contracts because the contracts were like $4 or whatever. I had two. I was very close to taking one of them off. We just never hit $100 in the P&L. So if I go to this trade here on TradeZilla, which by the way, we will leave it up. I'll leave the links to it down below in the description box. You can see that the max on the P&L was $90, and that was barely. So I was up $90. Once I'm up 100 plus, I have to make sure, if I haven't already, be proactive in taking profits here. Like we're up 100 plus, like, okay, this is based on my strategy, based on my risk management. This is what I got to do to be consistent. And we didn't get there. So I didn't take profits. I was close. I just didn't take the first sell. And so that was the deal. So there was the Microsoft trade. The next trade after that was on Google. This one, I'm not surprised. Google, because I want to say Google screwed me. Google doesn't have it out for me. It's just not the best for momentum. It can work at times, but Google tends to be choppy. And so in an environment where the S&P is choppy, probably not the best to play Google. Although the setup looked good. I mean, it really did. It could have been, Google's been strong on the daily chart, which I can pull up in a second. Highs right here, and you had this nice push consolidation right here. Beautiful. I mean, you're building these nice higher lows. If we can break a new high of the day above these highs, I want to get in. We did, and then it just barely nipped it, and then it came right back and stopped me out. In the grand scheme, though, what is Google doing? It's still trending up, but it's just a kind of a slower grind, a choppy move up, and nothing crazy, and it's not momentum filled, which is the problem that I had. So I lost 75 on that. Here's Google's daily chart, though, just to kind of frame this trade. It's a pretty good daily chart, right? Look at this. One of the stronger stocks in the market right now, because the S&P's pulled back substantially, not substantially, but just pulled back a few percent off of its highs from a few weeks ago. And Google's right there. Google's one day away from a new high of the year. So it's not like we're talking about like, oh, you're playing some stock that's downtrending and no, I was going long on a uptrending stock on the daily chart and an uptrending stock on the 5-minute chart. Just didn't have no momentum. Then funny enough, I made money on the downside today in Tesla. I made money shorting Tesla. Now this is, to be honest, here's where I want to tell you that I'm not a huge fan. Realistically here, shorts are going to be higher probability under 240 or 241 and longs above 260 or so. In between is kind of the chop zone. However, it's Tesla, which individually people talk personality. Tesla has a pretty good personality, and so that's why I decided to play Tesla, because of its individual personality. When we trend, when Tesla has nice setups, it can move pretty good. I'm looking back on this trade though, right as I speak, and I'm not sure I really love this trade. The entry point was right here on this break. So we had this push down, okay? Tesla establishes a bounce right there around 250. Okay, 250. Bounces back this upper wick right here, and then it breaks down below. I get in on the breakdown of this low of day. Stop loss above this wick, okay? Also, I like the 250. On top of that, I did like that on this move down, we did see an uptick in volume. So volume is ticking up as we're selling off more aggressively. Notice that some of the bigger red candles, right, we have got bigger volume to the downside. So as we're seeing volume tick up, we're seeing pressure, which is kind of more confirmation that, hey, we've got pressure to the downside. This makes it, a valid trade and a momentum trade for a low of day break, which we got. Wasn't the cleanest of setups, but that's why I decided to take. And when I say this day could have kind of gone, wrong. This setup was marginal, to be honest, because it's Tesla and because Tesla can move. I think that's a big piece to why it worked. Would I recommend future me to do this or to trade this on pretty much anything else? No. Maybe Nvidia. But other than that, probably not. No other stock has individual strong personalities like Tesla. And it comes off of just trading Tesla for a while and seeing it, knowing how it moves for my strategy. It's a good stock to trade for my strategy, right? Whereas Google is not the best. You saw Google is more choppy in nature, and Google's done that many, many times in the past. That's kind of just the nature of Google. So knowing these things, it's like, if I see a really good setup, I'll take it on Google. If I see a marginal setup, I'm not going to take that on Google. But I may on Tesla if other things align, and the volume happened to align here, which is why I took it. And the S&P was also rolling over at the time, so it kind of matched up, and we had relative weakness, substantial relative weakness, because Tesla's now red 1.5% in the day, where the S&P is actually currently green. So that's the deal. Now, to finish off the week, we end up the week down 130, which is not great, not bad. It's obviously red. It's kind of Our average win-loss is 1.54. That's kind of skewed by today's, there's only been 12 trades, by today's loss of $10. I mean, really was a break even, but they're factoring that into the loss. If I get myself out the way, you can see how it looks. So the big bad red day was this day, which we go back to Wednesday's recap, and you can see what I was talking about there. Just kind of a complete unwind in the mental is what it was. Nothing that I really should have done. There's no reason why it should have been red, to be honest, going back, if you went back to that video. And then there really isn't a reason why it should have been down 222, although it's pretty much near my max loss. So the max loss threshold kicked in, and it is what it is. But our current win rate is 33%. So we're still operating kind of like last month. And the conditions, I would say, are still similar to last month for momentum, where it's not as good. Go back to July, go back to June. It was okay. July I thought was pretty good. And then go back to May, I thought it was really good. So, month to month, things are not going to be perfect. We are in a period of time where generally the market's a little more choppy, even more red. August, September, historically, seasonality wise. Maybe that's playing into it. Maybe not. I'm going to let the data tell me. I don't really care. Let the data tell me what's going on. But either way, I do know that in terms of a risk management perspective, we are operating pretty well because our average win-loss for me is good. Now, this number, I'll be honest with you, 1.54, you might look at some people and they say, oh, that's terrible. Like it should be 2-to-1 risk reward or better. In terms of the actual trades that you take, based on my strategy, I find it's actually, it's in theory, it would be easy, but based on options and how things work, it's not as easy as you think to see that average win-loss very, very high. So the game plan or the goal is win rate around 50, average win-loss above 1, and you're golden. I had months where we had the win rate up over 60. I had months where it was, like last month. I don't know. Let's see what last month was. Let's see. Last month, win rate was around 39. So it is what it is. It's just, that's probably the worst that I've had since I really started tracking substantially here on TradeZilla, which I think makes it so much easier to do. But first week in the books, that's today's trade recap. Hope this is helpful in some way. And any links, resources to this stuff that I use and anything else in the video description box down below. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.